Good morning, Metaverse. I'm Thor with the Red Hand, and I'm going to go over the presentation videos for the Breakpoint event. There, a lot of other content creators have actually covered a lot of these things already and done a great job, but there was so much to go through and a lot of details that were released in the Breakpoint presentation, as well as the game day and a lot of videos and live streams that were given during that time that I think it deserves some extra time to cover that. And there's still plenty of people that might not have seen that yet. And so the next few videos I'm going to do are going to be around the Breakpoint event and the alpha drops after alpha drops that we got and covering that information. So let's get started. This part of the presentation is going to be about the web-based browser minigame. It was previously called Scream. We find that they're going to rename it Star Atlas Golden Era, also known as SAGE. I like that. It switches. Scream was an okay acronym, but SAGE is, in my opinion, a little bit better. And it really gives you a idea of the quality of, or at least in my opinion, I think it speaks more to the quality of web a browser game that they're going to be creating. I've actually been pretty impressed with this. So I'm going to jump through this a little bit. Might have some of Michael Wagner's actual audio, but more talking about the big points that I think are important. The overview of Sage was that it is a top-down viewer. It was going to have a cartographer theme to it, um, with some maps and the lines and the the circles setting up the solar systems and to be able to look down on that like a game board. And there are some other games that are very similar to this, and I've played several of those, so I have a decent amount to compare to. But Stellaris Galaxy Commander is the one I'm playing right now. I've been enjoying it with Bulk, the Star Atlas Guild, and I enjoy that. Recommend people try it out. Also, Nova Empire was one several years ago that I got very heavily into, and so I've experienced a couple different versions of how to do this, and the way that Star Atlas is going about this, laying it out and the quality that they've brought to it, I think is actually pretty impressive for that game genre. So, uh, you know, the other big part as far as mechanics is that it is, uh, or I should say, the architecture is that uh, it's predominantly on chain. Now, the first version is going to be on the dev testnet, and so that's on a testnet uh, blockchain. So it will be on chain. We'll be able to have all those interactions and break it while it's on the blockchain, but without permanent uh, consequences to our actual assets. Once it's done with the test net and they're ready to go onto the Solana blockchain, then everything is going to be for real. But they really are going to be able to run majority of this on the blockchain. I think that's huge. And so the fact that they're going to be doing majority of the game logic on chain is just going to bring a lot more permanence to our actions. Once it's on Solana and it's for real, then everything that we do is on chain forever. And that takes this game, which is a fun game, and brings a little bit more seriousness to it. And that's the kind of game that I'm looking for. So that was good to see. But the the basics of this is territory expansion, building star bases, gathering resources, and having that in a multiplayer uh, environment. And if they can hit all those items and have them function smoothly on the dev testnet and then on the Solana blockchain, I think this game, in and of itself, will be a solid game. And I bring that up because that's one of the big criticisms that I had heard for people that were focused on the UE5 game. uh, why are they putting resources into this mini game? Nobody cares about the mini game. I disagree with that. I actually really enjoy the mini game. Bringing a mini game into the mix, giving us another game and game style to utilize their assets in. It just brings more utility to it. And then this is going to be able to be finished and really playable well before UE5 version is fully playable. And so, I like to have something to do while I'm waiting for something else to happen, and that's great. And then take a look at some of the quality to this. Is this the 3D assets in this game are actually very high quality, in my opinion, for a web browser game, and I'm happy about that. I'm content with the quality of game that they are putting out. It's much higher than some of the other games that I've mentioned before that I have played extensively and happily played those, and spent a significant amount of time on. And so we take a look at some of the screenshots that they showed. Here we have the Ogrica Mick, the Bombarella, the Calico Guardian, the X6, and I believe a Visas Ombwe, three or five different types of ships engaged in a battle, firing lasers and flying around each other, outside of what is the Oni Central Space Station. It looks like a very large version of it, a more advanced version of the Oni Central Space Station. And so you get an idea of what Oni space station is going to look like, and that's pretty cool. But then also, these ships are represented maybe not to realistic size, because this Calico Guardian is right next to a Rainbow Ohm. Rainbow Ohm is a medium ship. Calico Guardian is a capital ship. It should be much larger. But so they are on a one scale representation of the ship, but the stats of those ships will obviously um, be accurately represented in the game. And so that's something to take a look at. And the other thing, I don't know if this window off to the right here, it says there's 3 Agrica mix, okay? And all I see is one Agrica mic here. It, I wonder if they're going to have one visual representation for, say, a fleet. Up to 10 Agrica mics is represented by one ship on screen. Um, I have seen that in some of the other games where you build a force up to, I don't know, 100 ships, and you'll only see one ship on the screen going through this battle. If that's the case, grouping those to reduce the amount of graphical load that it puts on the game, then okay, for helping it operate smoother. And then as far as this individual sizes being the same, you still have a very high degree of detail in those 3D images. And I'm okay with that. I know some people would rather see their big ship be as big as it's supposed to be. That is really cool. But for this stage, I'm content with it. And once you get out to Unreal Engine 5 version, then you can see the size difference. So the next view is going to be actually a different perspective, and here is another perspective of essentially the same battle scene. And if we're able to move our camera view into those different perspectives in real time while the battle's going on, I think that visually is going to be a really cool aspect. I hope that's how that lays out. These are some of the questions that I'll be asking um, with the development team as we're able to, with the guild leaders, et cetera. But this this perspective is a whole lot closer and engaging, really immersive into that battle scene, and that is one of my favorite parts about the other games I've played in this genre of game, where the closer you can get to that battle, the more you can get in the middle of the battle, the better. And so this is actually pretty impressive in the way that you can do that. And then you take a look at the different displays on the screen for controlling what your ship does, your status of your ship, your actual profile status. All of this stuff is pretty well put together, really clean and organized, and I like that. I like the way that they've done that. And then a third angle. This is actually, there's a star base behind it. You see the Oni emblem, in a different development stage. It says a T2, so I guess that's the second tier of that space station or star station. Um, but the same general ships, and you can see how detailed that is when you get up close to these ships. The lighting and the textures are all there, and so that is a whole lot more detail and a lot nicer looking than the other browser games I've played. So I'm happy about that. And again, you know the lines and all the stuff in the background versus the black starry space that you might think of as outer space is kind of a different take on it, a little bit more artistic take, that cartographer style. I think is a nice way to differentiate Star Atlas, Golden Age or Golden Era from some of these other games that are out there. So that's just my personal opinion. And so here is the one of the last uh, perspectives that you get, and this is actually an Ooster station. You can see by the emblem down there, and this looks to be the tier one, the first level of development. And so, you know, having all of the different guilds and all the different players in each faction trying to build their faction central station is I think is going to be a very good mechanic for bringing the community together to try to achieve one singular goal, which in a lot of the other games you have alliances or guilds or groups, and you're all in one galaxy, but there's no overarching goal. It's just domination, and by having this central station or star base, I think that's actually going to bring a lot more cooperation and coordination within the different groups that form up in that faction. So I'm really a big fan of the way that these crafting and building, leveling up of the star bases, as well as being able to build and add to your own fleet. I really enjoy that mechanic, and to have that played out in Sage is a lot of utility for my personal enjoyment as a game. Hopefully that video was helpful. Don't worry about liking or subscribing, but if you know somebody that would find it useful, go ahead and share it with them. You can do that. Today was a good day. Good morning, Metaverse.